Nathan, is Joe on? Okay. Oh, hi, Joe.
Oh,
Okay, it's 6:30. We will get started. This is the city council meeting for the city of Fairway, Kansas. It is Monday, March 9th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here. Good to see so many people. That's always nice. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I have no announcements. Nathan, do you? No? Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joe Levin is attending via Zoom tonight. Everyone else is present. We will start with the monthly reports of the standing committees. Fire Chief Chick is here this evening for his quarterly report. Welcome.
good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me tonight again. Not very often I get to speak in front of this many people at a city council meeting. So a couple of things. Sadly, I had a guest to bring with me tonight, but he's found himself predisposed out doing our work in the district. So
Oh, well,
we have a newly promoted battalion chief, and I wanted to introduce him to the council and the mayor, but I'll try and do that at one of the next meetings.
I think that's an excused absence.
Right. So he missed Mission Hills tonight too, because we were actually in the council chambers and he got called on a house fire. So
Off he goes.
he's doing the work. So and I'm happy he is. But I will take just a moment to speak about him. So we just over the last little bit here, periodically, we're an organization where people spend their career. If they do a good job, we keep them for their career. And we had a battalion chief retire this last year, and we had a process. What's great about processes and promoting people is that you get to see the strength you have in your organization and how people have done the work to get prepared for leadership positions. But James Lamb was selected for our battalion chief position. Next week marks his 20th anniversary with CFD2. He has worked hard to prepare himself for a leadership role within our organization, his formal education and degrees. He's done a lot of leadership training. He's been in a huge number of tactical and command decision-making classes. He's been to the National Fire Academy multiple times in Emmitsburg, Maryland. And he has really invested in being prepared to be a leader in this organization. And so he's honed those skills over 20 years. He was promoted up through the ranks, and we just completed his probationary period, and he is now the full-fledged battalion chief for A shift. So I'm sorry I couldn't have him here tonight. I think he texted me a minute ago and said, I left the house fire and I'm on the way to pick a firefighter up from KU from a critical patient. So we've got a lot going on today, but
Bring him another time.
I will do so. I will do so. Wanted to talk real briefly about the quarterly reports. There's been a delay in getting some of the numbers together, and there's good reason for that. I'm really happy to report that the reason for that is that we've as of January 1st moved to what's called NERIS, NERIS. I may have briefly mentioned it to the council last time I was here, but that's the National Emergency Reporting Information System for Fire and EMS. It's a nationwide reporting system. It was rolled out by the federal government over the last year. We all had to be prepared with our reporting platforms and moved over to that by the 1st of January of this year. We were successful at that. We were able to get on board, but the positive is that we're already seeing that our data that we get through this reporting system and the way that we report our calls is better. And a lot of times we may be dispatched to like an alarm. We don't know what kind of alarm it is. We're just dispatched because there's an alarm going off. Well, if there's a cause for that alarm, we should be actually able to select what that cause is. But in the previous reporting platform, it wasn't that easy. But we're seeing better data now. It's focused on the kind of calls that we find when we get there rather than what we were told we were going to see when we got there. And so we're excited about what that brings in the future. You're going to notice some things on the report that'll be a little bit different looking to you. First of all, there's calls shifting between areas like we used to in every city report see other. There's a whole area of calls on that report that says other. We're seeing that number come down, and we're seeing those calls go into specific real categories now, which is good. It tells us the data is accurate and we're heading in a good direction. This has been a major change for all fire departments across the country, and it forced us all to kind of upgrade our record management systems. The good part of that is we were already working on an upgrade, and the way that we manage that data and the way that we're able to generate reports is going to bring us to much better, outcomes and much better reporting for the decisions that we need to make for the future. So we're excited about that. New process is already showing us a lot of promise. But we're going to also, at the same time, as we make these data updates, we're going to change the way that we report to our cities. I did speak about this briefly last time I was here, and what you're going to see at the bottom of your report is that there's an average time, which is what we used to report to all of our cities, but there's also a 90th percentile time. And over time here, the average is going to go away, and we're going to report our 90th percentile, because that number is much more accurate for what we're able to do in the worst case scenario. And so what you will see, and the reason we left the averages on there, is that our performance hasn't drastically changed. We're still, our goal is 80 seconds or 1 minute and 20 seconds to be out the door on emergent fire calls, and we're out the door in 1 minute and 16 seconds. So we're still ahead of the goal. That's always hovered in the low 1 minute, 1 minute and 10, 1 minute and 16 second range. Emergent EMS, we're out the door in about 1 minute and 3 seconds. And that's been previously about 1 minute and 5 or 6 seconds. So we're actually a little bit faster in that area. But what you'll see is the 90th percentile number might be a little bit longer. And the reason is that you're looking at what can we do for the top 90% of the calls that we run. And so this is a metric that is used nationwide, and it holds us a little bit more accountable to set the bar a little higher from a fire department standpoint. But you'll see for the next couple of reports that you're going to see an average and a 90th percentile, so you can begin to get used to the new reporting format. And I'll be here to answer your questions and talk about those things. So we're excited about what we're learning. We're doing a very nice job for the residents. And what we're seeing is that the data is very, very clear for us compared to what we used to get. The data, we really had to extract a lot of information from data that wasn't as precise as we would have liked it. And now what we're seeing is that those data points are a little bit more pinpoint, and we can really see where we're headed in some areas. So I'm excited about that. And in the future, I'm confident that the reports we bring to you will be able to depict that. So 90th percentile is, again, it's a standard for comparison in fire and EMS nationwide. It's also, what many organizations use when they start looking at things like third-party validation and accreditation, those kind of things. So those numbers are important for the future as well. So last thing I'd like to do is give you a quick update on our remodel progress at Station 22. As you well know, we've been in the middle of a remodel and expansion at that station. There were many reasons that we decided to do that remodel, not the least of which was that we had literally run out of room. We had our captain and lieutenant working out of a broom closet, and we've had a lot of stuff that we just had outgrown it. And so we're excited about the future with that station. We were very intentional when we made the design for that station. We set limitations. When you come see that station, what you'll notice is it's not fancy, it's functional. We polished concrete floors rather than carpet and things like that. And we made it very, very utilitarian, but that's the way the guys wanted it, because we can take care of it that way. So exciting part of this is that we plan to open that station about mid-April, hoping that we could get in there by, April 15th or so. We've had a long road. We lived in the station while we were doing construction because it was important to us not to change our response times in this area and to continue to serve the residents to the best of our ability. But we have endured, and the firefighters have been patient, and we received our temporary certificate of occupancy today. And so we're moving everybody assigned to that station back in, and they'll be sleeping in that station tonight. And so we're excited. We're a month ahead, and we're really, really happy to do that. So the other thing that's really important to the residents is that we brought that project in under budget. And so that's exciting.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. That was a $4.3 million spend, and we've been able to stay within the allotted money for that. And I'm excited about that because rather than building a station, we were able to repurpose a brick and mortar station. We did a lot of updates. It had to have new electricity and new plumbing and new sewer plumbing and the whole thing. But in the end, it was cost effective to do that because it's my understanding that most of the fire stations in Johnson County right now are coming in between 14 and $20 million. So 4 million for a remodel seems to be very cost effective. So, so Engine 22 and Squad 22 will be back in that station tonight, serving you as they always have. The battalion chiefs will return to their normal quarters next Monday. And then MedAx ambulance, which has been temporarily moved over to Mission, will be back on the 30th of March. And so stand by. We'll be planning an opening later this spring. We'd like to get the landscaping done and a few things like that. And then we're going to have an opening for everybody in our city partners to attend. So with that, I'm happy to stand for questions, Mayor.
Okay. Any questions for the chief?
Yep.
Hang a minute. I'll turn my head. Kelly?
Kellyanne Busick, Ward 1. Thank you, Chief Chick, really for the progress. That's amazing. I have a question for you, and it could be approximate. Since Fieldston has opened, how many calls have you had to the building?
Gosh, I don't know. It's a great question because I'd like to know that myself, but we have been so overwhelmed with just getting our reporting right and all that stuff. I haven't been able to really hone in on the data, but at the end of March, I'm going to get my first report from the first quarter. My people always tell me, don't get honed in on this month's report. Let's look at a quarter and look at it, but I always like to look at it when I can, but I'm excited to see what that's done. I will tell you, we've run some calls, but it's not been a drastic change for us. Yeah. So, and I have to admit, if you don't mind me adding, that the city of Fairway worked in partnership with us when the Fieldston began, and we talked about concerns for tax increment financing and things like that. And your partnership has been a model for what we're trying to do with other cities. And so I just want to thank you for your open-mindedness and your work, Nathan. Thank you.
You are very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
We need you guys.
And we're happy to be here serving you.
Anyone else? Chief, congratulations on the building.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming this evening.
We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
If the people in the front row would squeeze together a little, I'll bet there's room for this family. There we go. Now we're okay. All right. Administration and Finance. Nathan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep this very brief. The agenda item or the Administration and Finance Committee met at the end of February, and really the main topic of our agenda is on new business for this evening. So aside from that, I'm happy to answer any questions related to the administration side of things before moving to finance.
Okay, I'll look left first. Anyone have questions for Nathan? All right, thank you. Police, Chief?
Thank you. We had a number of felony arrests last month. Our numbers are very consistent and remain high. Speaking of being high, one of those arrests involved methamphetamine distribution, but that is through traffic. That's not anything local, but we're stopping the right cars. There was also a pursuit that we initiated, and then it ended just on the other side of state line. Nathan, can you pull that picture up if you have it available? This is just, I thought this was pretty interesting. The end of the pursuit, unfortunately, there was a minor vehicle accident just involving property damage to some vehicles. I don't know if it'll.
No.
If you can't get it, you can't get it. Okay. Well, anyway, one of the vehicles involved was a beer distribution truck. And on the very back windows, it said, "It's Miller time." And the officer that was in the pursuit was Officer Miller. And when I went over there and I snapped a picture of this and I told him, I said, I think you may have taken it a little too far with the beer truck. But anyway, that was,
Oh,
I'll send you
good-
guys the
good to
pic.
see.
That's all I have. I can
Okay.
answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief this evening? Thank you, chief. Public Works, Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. I will also let my report stand as submitted. The one thing I would like to point out to it is, once again, for the 40th consecutive year, the city of Fairway achieved Tree City USA status. That is, a longstanding tradition that even predates anyone in this room. We keep on getting it, and, right-of-way specialist Rick Allen will go and accept the award on our behalf. The 30th anniversary they did at the Lead Lodge, where the National Arbor Day Foundation is up in Nebraska, and the 50th they're in Great Bend, Kansas. So I'm not deciding who got the short end of the stick on that one, but I don't know why the 50th anniversary wasn't up there, but it is what it is. But be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Bill? Lee?
I don't have a question, but I did want to congratulate you, Bill and Rick and the entire team on the recognition, Tree City USA 40 in a row. It's very important as the city of trees, very important recognition for us. I know you guys work very hard along with the tree board, and just great job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, Bill. Parks and Rec? Bryce?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll let my report stand as submitted. Just as you probably know, the newsletter is out, the brochure for the summer activities are out, and camp registration is booming right now. Fairway residents had a few days head start to get their kids registered, and then we let the pool members do it secondly, and then non-residents finally. So about 5 out of the 10 camps are full right now. So if you haven't registered, make sure you do that quickly. Take any questions.
Questions for Bryce? The newsletter looked really good. Yeah, it really did. And the pavilion is open and ready to go?
Yeah, pavilion's ready to go. We just got to get some furniture in there, but it looks really nice, and we're excited to show everybody this summer.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Monthly reports of the special committees, tree board, Bill?
No report.
Public comment for consent agenda items only. These items are determined to be routine enough to be acted in a single motion. I would like to read them into the record. A, approve minutes of the previous regular and special city council meetings. B, approve claims and appropriations, ordinance number 1843, February 2026. C, approve amendment number 8, CIP final design modification of the 2025-2026 CIP project agreement with Burns and McDonnell. D, approve granting a temporary construction easement at 4717 Rowe Parkway, Roland Park, Kansas. E, approve audit engagement letter for 2025 financial audit. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on any of these consent agenda items? Anyone online? Okay. Although these are acted on in a single motion, this does not preclude discussion. If a council member requests, an item may be removed from the consent agenda for further consideration and separate motion. Would anyone on the council like to discuss any of these items? Joe, does Joe?
He was there. There he is.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move we approve items on the consent agenda A through D.
E,
Oh, E. Okay,
A through E?
okay. Yes, A through E.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve items A through E on the consent agenda. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
No. Passes unanimously. New business. We have only one item under new business. Consider resolution number 2026A, a resolution approving CARS 5-year plan 2027 through 2031. I imagine that most of you are here this evening specifically for that item. And I have a few things that I'd like to say first. You know, this is a very, very difficult and emotional issue. Staff and the 8 members with me here and Joe online must deal with this kind of issue, this emotional and difficult issue many, many times, and it's very hard to do. The decisions we make, a lot goes into looking at the decisions, getting independent third parties involved, working with staff. We'll may have several committee meetings. It's something that we take very, very seriously. It's our jobs. And most days we're happy to do it, although it's difficult at times. When this particular accident happened, as is always the case in the city of Fairway, a traffic study is done. There have been, during my tenure as mayor, several accidents. We always immediately do a traffic study. It's the beginning of the process. Shortly after the accident, while the study was still being done, we placed this crosswalk on the 5-year CARS plan. So this subject was discussed at 2 committee meetings. And the committee on which this issue falls is the committee of the whole. It is not just the finance committee. It is not just the administration committee. It's called the committee of the whole for a reason. Number one, after I became mayor, I determined that those 2 committees needed to be combined because that's finance and admin go hand in hand, and many issues are dealt there. And when you have individual council members on one or the other, they weren't getting the whole picture. So a committee of the whole means all 8 council people form that committee. So this issue is in the committee of the whole, and it was discussed twice. The last, as Nathan mentioned, at our February meeting. In a committee, any of the committees, a vote is not taken. It's a consensus. And the consensus in this February meeting, the committee reviewed the 5-year CARS plan again, and based upon the study that was done by an independent third party, the consensus 100% was to remove the crosswalk from that 5-year plan for CARS. Now, CARS is a funding mechanism that the city uses with the county. They will pay a percentage of the cost. That cost percentage that they'll fund changes from year to year, depending on what their budget looks like. It's something that's difficult to work with when you're trying to put a budget together, but that's the way it works. Tonight, we are going to share that study with you. It will be presented by Burns and McDonnell, and I'll introduce the 2 individuals that are here this evening to present that to you. You will hear the study, you will see the study exactly as the committee of the whole saw it. And the presentation will be the presentation that we received. Okay, before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief. You have some remarks, please.
I just want to give an overview of the
Can you
accident.
talk directly into the mic, please?
Sure. I just want to give an overview of the accident that occurred on January 29th, 2025 at approximately 3:20 in the afternoon. The school, St. Agnes, had just gotten out and two children were waiting to cross from the Roland Park side by the church, by St. Agnes, onto Canterbury. Traffic had backed up westbound all the way to that point. A vehicle stopped, seeing that the driver saw apparently the two children waiting to cross. The children were 10 and 7 and signaled for them to enter the roadway. At that time, the children ran across the street and were struck by a vehicle traveling eastbound. That vehicle was not speeding and it was driving appropriately. Because of the traffic that had been backed up and stopped, the driver couldn't see the children running in between the two vehicles. There were two independent witnesses to this accident. One of the witnesses stated that the children did not look at eastbound traffic because they were on the sidewalk and being signaled across by that driver that stopped for them. This is a quote, "Oh my God, they're not going to stop for this eastbound traffic." She stated they bolted and didn't look the other way. Now, I know that they were small at the time. And I don't think that I think that once they saw that driver signal them to cross the roadway, they just went and they sprinted. That eastbound vehicle didn't see them coming in between those two cars and then struck both of the children at that time. They both sustained injuries, and thank God they're okay. It was a tragic accident, and those are pretty much the facts of the accident.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, I'd like to introduce Phil Herman and Jason Myers from Burns and McDonnell. If you'll come to the podium, please. They are going to present the study to you in its entirety. Is the mic on?
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Jason Myers, Burns McDonnell, project manager for most of the Fairway projects that come through. The day after this accident happened, just from our standpoint, Bill made a call to us real quickly. We were out there the next morning. It was a rainy morning. Started some of our existing studies that were out there. We had to hire a surveyor to get us some additional information because we were going to look for potential funding with cars. At that time, we went through our scoping meetings on how we typically develop our traffic studies and different safety data that's required as part of the warrants. And we were started on that immediately as required just to get everybody information out as part of the study. We know the area pretty well. I have a freshman and a junior at Bishop Miege, so we go there very often, all the time. But the real part of this report was completed by a professional traffic engineer, Phil. He's actually a resident of Fairway, he lives close by. But I'll let him kind of take over from here. So thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So what's up? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead and advance the slide there, I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. This is
Take your time. This is very important.
Sure. Yeah,
Don't worry about the time.
Gotcha. It's a little bit dry, so I'll try to do my
okay.
best not to. I'll try to keep it straight as I can here. So yeah, we're going to do a quick introduction of the project and then go into some data collection and some of the results that we found from the data collection. And then we'll look at the analysis that we conducted as part of this study, and then the conclusions that we drew from it. And then we'll, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. So first here, introduction. There were two kind of main objectives with this study. The first one being to examine the feasibility of installing a crosswalk at the location of where the crash occurred at Canterbury and 53rd Street. And you can kind of see it's a little bit difficult to see from here, but the focus, the study area was relatively confined to that area. The other objective was to that Bill had asked us to explore was extending the existing school zone to beyond around the corner to include that portion of the project area. So those were the two main priorities for this study. And so next we jump into the data collection. And as Jason suggested, we got out there right away to try and do some on-site pictures, take a look at the geometrics, do some measurements of the existing roadway widths, sidewalks, site distance. Took a lot of our typical data collection that we collect at sites where we're looking at exploring a crosswalk. The other thing we looked at is stopping site distance, and for this 30-mile-an-hour road, you need 200 feet per car to be able to stop on the approach. So this location had adequate site distance, 300 plus feet there in both directions. The next slide here is looking at we had a sub-consultant come out, and they conducted some traffic counts for us and some speed counts. So we found that the peak periods occurred between 7 and 9 a.m. and that's what we expected with kind of the school time and peak hour traffic. And then we also show that the peak period between 2:45 and 4:45 p.m. So AM, PM, afternoon, we wanted to collect the morning school children and afternoon school children to see pedestrian traffic versus vehicular traffic. Peak hours within those peak periods, which is usually what we look at in traffic engineering, we often focus on that peak hours. So the morning peak hour was 7:45 to 8:45 a.m. and then the PM afternoon was 3 to 4 p.m. And you can see in the photos there, we did observe about 3 school children in the morning that crossed there, and during the PM, the afternoon peak, there were 4 adults. I don't believe there were any school children, but there were 4 adults that used that crosswalk during that hour. So next we did a week-long speed study. We had traffic counters out there that measured speeds, both directions along 53rd Street. And so one of the things we look at as traffic engineers is the 85th percentile speed, and that's one metric we use to set speed limits on roads. And it gives us a good idea of how fast traffic is traveling on that stretch of road. So 85th percentile speed is basically just the speed at which 85% of drivers on the road that we measured are traveling at or below. So it's a majority of your drivers are traveling at this speed or below. The other 15% are traveling faster. So that's represented here in this chart, and you can see eastbound and westbound, and then the combined speed was 34 miles per hour. So the speed limit is about right. You're going to have a few, like any street, a few knuckleheads that are going excessively fast, and there's not much you can do about them, but the vast majority of drivers are obeying the speed limits. The next time we looked at, we did a traffic gap study, and the width of that street, that segment, 53rd Street, is 33 feet. And so typically we would use a 3.5 feet per second walking speed to assess what the traffic gap would be. But in this case, in areas where you have younger children or elderly folks that in school areas or church areas, you can use a slower speed. So we went ahead and were conservative with the study and used a 3 foot per second walking speed assumption, which translates to 11 seconds gap. So in other words, in order to cross the street, you need at least 11 seconds of gap between traffic to safely cross. So that is, that's one of the metrics, and I'll get into that here a little bit later, that we studied to look at warrants for various conditions. Next slide. The next thing we looked at as part of the study was we wanted to see if there's any serious crash history along this stretch of in this project area. So we looked back over the last 5 years, and we got records from Fairway Police Department and Roland Park Police Department, since this is the city boundary line, and we wanted to make sure we collected all the crash data. And over that 5 years, there were 3 crashes. One in 2022, which was a rear end property damage. One in 2024, which was a side swipe, head on and property damage. And then, of course, the crash that happened here a little over a year ago with the 2 school children. So 3 crashes over that 5 period, which I'll talk a little bit more about again in our warrants as just kind of a baseline for what we looked at. Okay, so the first one we looked at, just trying to be holistic. We had the traffic data, and we knew it wasn't going to warrant like a traditional traffic signal, because that takes quite a bit of cars, intersecting cars and pedestrians to warrant. But we went ahead and put it in the report anyway, just as a baseline, so you can kind of see where this intersection is to warranting a traffic signal. And you'll see the METCD up there on the screen that references the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is the standard of care that we as traffic engineers use. That's what we go to base all of our judgment and our guidance for application of any sort of traffic control device on our roadways. And the point of that being that, if you're driving in Fairway, or if you're driving Overland Park, or if you're driving in Los Angeles or New York, the driver's expectations are the same. So these principles are applied uniformly across the country, and so that is the standard of care that we reference. And so all of these exhibits, these warrants you'll see are in the METCD. And so the red and blue points there on the graph, those represent the AM and PM peak hours. So in order to have warranted, they need to be to the right of that one lane and one lane graph. So you can see it falls quite a bit short of warranting a traffic signal. So that was warrant, the peak hour warrant. And so the next one was, go to the next slide here. Okay, so traffic signal warrant, which is number 5 for a school crossing. So this goes back to that gap analysis that we looked at. And so basically what you're looking at was kind of that peak 15-minute period where you would expect school children to cross. And this lines up with when the crash occurred in the afternoon, 3:15 to 3:30 was the 15-minute period we looked at. And then 7:45 to 8 a.m. was the AM period. So there were a pretty substantial number of gaps. So there were more than 15 gaps in that 15-minute period. So in other words, pedestrians aren't having to wait longer than a minute to find an adequate gap. And that's usually a good thing in terms of, just if you're going to cross the road, you want to be able to have adequate gaps in traffic. And this was sufficient. There were plenty of gaps for children to cross. And it also requires a minimum of 20 school children per hour. And by our traffic data, we only showed 3 at most that crossed during the AM peak hour. So that warrant was not satisfied either. The next warrant, number 7, is crash experience. And so we talked a little bit about the crashes. There were 3 crashes over that 5-year period, and these tables are based on a 1-year period. So if you look all the way to the right, there's the 3-legged, this is a 3-legged intersection. So in a 1-year period, you would need at least 3 crashes. And so those crashes all occurred over a 5-year period. So there just wasn't a crash history present at this location to warrant, to meet this warrant. The next thing we looked at as part of the study was what's called a pedestrian hybrid beacon. signal warrant, and you all may be familiar with this. There's one installed currently on Rainbow, right across from there's the KU Medical Center has a facility there. And that picture there kind of shows a picture of it for reference. But so this warrant, it looks at, making sure that there's no excessive pedestrian delay. Vehicle speeds are less than 35 miles an hour, and then adequate gaps in traffic. And then lastly, it looks at this table, right? So a similar table with the AM and PM charted in this graphic. And L is the width of the crosswalk. So this, again, 53rd Street is 33 feet. So the closest L equal 34 feet is the closest to our application here on this project. So you can see we have to be right to the right of that line as well to warrant this pedestrian hybrid beacon. There's just not enough pedestrians to warrant, and not enough traffic as well, vehicular traffic. So that warrant was not satisfied for a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Okay, and the next thing we looked at was a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, and you all are probably familiar with these as well. These are already located around there's one in the vicinity of the school and the church, kind of near the corner where it turns north. So that's what we looked at here with this application, and our analysis we reviewed. It does have, the intersection has adequate sight distance for the RFB. So the vehicle speeds are under 35 miles an hour, adequate gaps in traffic. But the catch here is that it does require, warning signs, a marked crosswalk, and then that connecting ADA ramp and sidewalk path structure. So the south side does not currently have that. So this would not be an application that, at least at this time, where an RFB would be encouraged. And then the last thing we kind of looked at here again was the extension of the current school restricted speed zone. So the METCD recommends that it be placed within 200 to 500 feet within advance of the school property itself. And so the graphic on the right side there, it kind of shows, it's a little bit difficult to see. But you can kind of see today, where it's at today falls within that limit. So it is close to meeting, where you want to be within the current METCD. So there's other options that the METCD talks about, and there's if the city were to deem a crosswalk outside of that as a school crossing, then the METCD does allow an extension of that school zone. So, and they allow up to, I believe it's 500 feet. If you scroll to the left there, just to make sure I'm speaking, maybe it's a little bit up. I want to make sure I'm speaking that correctly, but maybe it's, yeah. So an extension of up to 500 feet beyond that school crossing. And so if you chart that out, it doesn't quite, that going around that corner, it wouldn't quite capture that intersection itself. And then, one of the things that the METC used to have looser guidance on school zones. They used to kind of let you put them wherever you felt appropriate as communities. But what they found is that if you put those signs too far outside of the school, within the limits of the school, drivers, it tends to breed contempt. They don't see the need for it when they're driving so slow. They're trying to get to work or wherever. They've got this long trek to get to this before they get to the school zone, right? So that tends to have the counter to the effect is counter to what you want to happen is people tend to speed through the entire speed zone when it's too long. So that's one of the things you have to be careful of when you're setting your boundaries, is just making sure that you're not setting it too long where people, if they don't see school children or they don't see a school, they're not going to understand the need to drive a reduced speed. So the school zone, again, it didn't quite go to the extent of the intersection to extend it that far. So in conclusion, we went through the traffic signal warrants and the signal warrants weren't met. Pedestrian hybrid beacon, that signal warrant was also not met. The RFB, it lacked a receiving sidewalk and ADA ramp. So that RFB it met all the other elements for an installation there, but was not quite did not quite have all the infrastructure needed for installation. And then lastly, again, just the school zone extension didn't quite meet the limits of the METCD's designated school crossing. And I believe, yeah, so we had, some other, you know, if in the future the RFB is constructed, you know, the city may consider some further analysis of this crossing to look at, you know, speeds and, you know, maybe sometimes that may increase pedestrian demand when you build something like that. So another study may be warranted to explore the effect of installing that RFB. So that's all I've got for today's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Don't leave the podium.
Sure.
Council, this is your opportunity to ask questions concerning this presentation, Lee.
So thank you, Phil, for being here, walking us through that. I appreciate that. Just a couple of points. The zone that you studied is 30 miles an hour in the entire zone. It's not part of the 20 miles an hour school zone, right?
Right.
The other question I have for you is, did you guys give any thought to the time of year that you did the study? You know, if weather was effect or whatever was going on with the school? Do you feel like the study was done at a typical pace?
Yeah, that was our goal. Was the weather was actually pretty fair that day, and you know, it wasn't too chilly where I think you tend to see more drivers drop off at school. So we did see some school children actually using it. And the other consideration is that you know, the 53rd Street's location relative to the residential homes in the area, there's, you know, it's limited to that stretch between 53rd Street and Shawnee Mission Parkway. So you're not going to get people south of Shawnee Mission Parkway coming straight up across Shawnee Mission Parkway to use that. So we thought, you know, there's going to be a limited number of pedestrians, school children, you know, especially using that area. Go ahead.
Bill?
I just wanted to add that if you remember correctly, we had Nathan sign the agreement for the study before it came to the governing body because we wanted to get it in before spring break. We did have that out there. We wanted to make sure we got typical school patterns. And so we wanted to get that done before spring break.
That's right.
Thank you for adding that.
Mayor, if I might also add,
Yes, Nathan?
I'm pretty certain we ensured that Wednesday was included as a part of the study to capture any church pedestrian traffic as well.
Thank you. Anyone else has questions for Phil? Yeah, Jim?
Jim Hafner, Ward 3. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I want this to be recorded. Pushing it on and off, sorry. So could not some signs, like on my street in Glenfield Drive, there's 2 signs saying just kids playing. So just some simple signs just to alert the drivers going both east. That,
So,
hey, there's kids around, or could be an adult that's on a cane or something, or just, you know, just to kind of be alert that is a populous area.
Sure. Yeah. And
School
so
and stuff, so.
the METCD, it's got, you know, if you're going to put signs on the right of way, you want to make sure you're complying with signs that the METCD has is within their book, their manual, right? So if you were to put signs that aren't within the METCD in the right of way, you know, that could introduce risk to the city. It could create a false sense of security for pedestrians if they see a sign that's not meeting the uniform traffic code, the
Oh.
MTCD.
I
But
got
those
two
are-
pictures of my signs. Do you want to take a look at these and see if they're?
Jim, those signs aren't recognized by the MUTCD, and once they lose the retroreflectivity or before, they will be removed.
You think so?
I do think so.
Really? Okay.
All right, any
Thank
other
you.
questions for Kellyanne?
Kelly Busick, Ward 1. I have a really important question.
Sure.
This stretch of Mission Road is 2/10 of a mile, 1,000 feet. Why is the speed limit 30 miles an hour when the adjacent streets coming onto that road in the neighborhoods are 20 miles an hour? And then also other surrounding roads are 25. Now in Roland Park, in the adjacent area to Bishop Miege, it's totally 20 miles an hour throughout the whole section. There's no school zone designated. It's 20 miles an hour all the time. So can you speak to that, please? Thank you.
Bill, go ahead.
There was actually a study on that done in 2000, 2001, where they studied that entire corridor, which is when they removed one of the old crosswalks that were there, and the recommendation was for that area to be signed at 30 miles an hour. So that was done with after an engineer study.
By Roland Park.
No, by, I think it was GBA,
Oh, okay.
but
So-
it was I don't remember who commissioned it, but it was done at the request of, I believe, the chiefs of police of Roland Park, Fairway, and Westwood.
To say more on that subject, the stop time from 30 miles an hour and 20 miles an hour are totally different. There's a big gap. And that's my concern. If people were driving on that road at 20 or maybe 22 or whatever, and not at 30 and 32, there'd be more time to stop if they saw an individual in the road. And that's my big concern, that I don't believe personally that street needs to be at 30 miles an hour. There's no reason at all. It's one stretch of road. It's only 1,000 feet. That's it. There's no advantage to it because we're still in a very condensed area with the Shawnee Indian Mission, our neighborhoods, the St. Agnes Church, St. Agnes Catholic School, and Bishop Miege. And that very concerns me because if we can't add what is requested with a crosswalk and sidewalks, that it's not deemed reasonable to what your study says, what can we do to help mitigate what has happened and what may happen in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So speeds are tricky because drivers tend to drive what they feel comfortable on speeds. And 53rd Street is more of a collector street. Some of the streets you described were more local streets, so residential and local streets. That 33-foot cross section, it tends to just feel wider. So traffic feels they feel more comfortable driving faster. So you could put 125 mile an hour speed or 20 mile an hour speed limit signs along that stretch, but if traffic doesn't feel comfortable, if they feel comfortable driving 34 mile an hour, then that's what they'll drive, unless you have enforcement there all the time, trying to mitigate that, which in most cases is not practical for the police to do that 24/7. But so it's tricky. There's some options you can look at, like and just speaking from you've probably seen in like over in Westwood Hills, they've got lane striping, so they narrowed it with some pavement markings. It kind of gives a little bit of a feel of a narrower road, and it's a cheaper option than narrowing the curbs on that stretch. And that's sometimes not something you want to do anyway, just because of it being a collector street with higher volumes. But so the lane striping, sometimes that can help. You can look at there's studies that show, you've probably seen the speed limit signs that have a dynamic speed limit, give you your real-time speed. They show, okay, speed limit 30, but you're doing 35. It shows your actual, a radar of your study. So alerts drivers a little bit more of the, it's like, oh, hey, I'm speeding, I better slow down. So that's another relatively cheap option to explore. But yeah, that's kind of the, you know, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the speed humps are more for the local, you know, your policy is on local roads, 25 mile an hour
Yep.
speeds.
Yeah, the main reason for that is you don't want to divert traffic from collector roads into residential.
Right.
Half us, half Roland Park.
Any other questions from council for Phil? Thank you, Phil. We may call you back, so don't leave.
Sure.
All right. Before I call for before I call for public comment, Bill, this is your piece of new business. Would you
Thanks.
please explain to us what is being asked of the city council this evening?
Sure, Mayor. We're wanting, as required by the county for submitting for cars and for reimbursement, one of the things that they require is a resolution being passed by the governing body in support of the CARS project as it has been outlaid. The direction we received from the Finance Committee, the Committee of the Whole, was to remove the 53rd Street project, which was slated for 2027, and replace it with our next highest ranking project, which was the rehabilitation of the Mission Road Bridge. And that's what you see on the CARS 5-year plan before everyone for today.
Okay. Any questions, council, for Bill?
Hey, Bill, is that written in stone?
Jim,
I'm
Please
sorry.
wait to be recognized.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is that written in stone for 5 years, or can that be reevaluated? maybe
That can, it's reevaluated annually.
Annually, okay, thanks.
Other questions for Bill? All right. We will now open the floor for public comment on the consideration of Resolution 2026A. We have a lot of people here this evening. I normally don't enforce our policy of time limit. It's not my intention to do that this evening, but I want everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Our time limit is 4 minutes. I'll watch that. If you start going way beyond 4 minutes, I will ask you to stop. So please be respectful of the other people in the audience and keep your comments as close to the 4 minutes as you can. In other words, don't be repetitive. You'll come forward to the podium, be sure it's on, and state your name and address for the record. Brandon?
My name is Brandon Newell. My wife and I live at 5340 Canterbury Road. I'm a husband, a father, and I'm a pediatrician. For the past 10 years, I have raised my family in Fairway, Kansas. We've had the best of times of our life here. And last January, when our children, Connor and Annie, were hit by a car trying to cross that street, because there is no other way to get to school or back, it was almost one of the worst days of our lives. In fact, it was. I never would have thought that the decision to remove a crosswalk in 2004 and not replace it would have such an impact on our lives. I am thankful that my children were not killed by the car, and I am thankful that we do have community support. My wife and I have met so many kind Fairway neighbors going door to door. It is a constant reminder of why Fairway is such a great place to live. We went around door to door asking for a petition, encouraging people to learn about the subject. Most everyone we met signed the petition for the sidewalk and crosswalk. As of now, we have over 117 Fairway members who have signed it, and over 200 total from Westwood and Roland Park, and more coming in. We need to stand up for our neighbors and help each other be safe. We feel that our Ward 1 council members, Kelly Busick and Lee Story, are listening to the community. I do ask everyone to listen to the following information According to census data in Fairway, there are 4,150 residents. 21% of that population is under age 15. Approximately 19.5% is over age 60. And 78% of people in the area drive to work every day. There are 2 elementary schools and a middle school and a high school within a 5 to 10 block radius of the incident. The busiest roads in Fairway through it are Shawnee Mission Parkway and Mission Road, West 53rd Street. Some people call it Mission Speedway. Shawnee Mission Parkway has sidewalks on both sides of it as it goes through Fairway. West 53rd Street does not. A sidewalk and a crosswalk provide safe pedestrian lanes for our residents to walk through and enjoy our city. I grew up in a small Kansas town where we could walk to school, walk to the local stores, and back safely because there are sidewalks everywhere. We don't have that here. Artery streets such as West 53rd should have sidewalks on both sides. A sidewalk only on one side forces us to walk illegally through the street on a busy street or through people's yards to cross the street, back over, and then back again just to get back home. I hope that the City Council will take time to listen to our residents, especially our most vulnerable. Most of us want to walk safely in our city and not be forced to drive or take an Uber to take our kids to school or the local Fairway shops or hen house. I am sure there are short-term solutions to make our streets safer. While you work on long-term ones, the City of Fairway does have intelligent people and creative minds working on it. Please take the time to find a way. Regarding the study, I did have just a couple comments, and I know those can be addressed. One is the study was done around spring break time, and it was repeated because of some, I believe, corrupt data originally. Secondly, I don't know if the fact that the study was done right after a very public accident, if that affected traffic through that area. Because honestly, if I had seen or heard about an incident where 2 kids got hit, I would not want to walk my kids that way. We do because we don't have any other choice. And we did drive after that for quite a while. And thirdly, the church is part of the school and it outlets onto West 53rd Street. So our kids go to church during the week, school week, as part of their school curriculum. So I do consider the school and church going to be one and the same. So I would strongly think that extending the school zone would be something to consider because I think it's a unique situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Phil, do you want to answer his questions?
Yeah, so if this church is part of the school, then, you know, that would give, you know, you all as a city, you know, the grounds to potentially extend that. You know, that justification I think is fair if you know, if there's school children that are going there and using the sidewalk facilities there. What was the other question? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on.
Bill, is that our decision or someone else's decision?
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately kind of up to the city
Okay.
to decide if that's something you guys want to do, wanted to extend that. You know, again, if that is considered part of the school facility, then I think you've got a good reason why you could potentially extend that school zone.
Okay. Brandon, your other 2 questions? Just a minute, Phil.
After the accident, do you think that traffic would affect that maybe walk through that area? And does that affect some of the data?
Yeah, I guess I it's kind of a hypothetical. I can't really to speak to that. You know, there's potential that there could be less children that cross there as a result. But again, I think just when you look at the volume of houses that can actually use that, there's just not that many people. Again, because it's Shawnee Mission Parkway is such a big dividing line that I don't think you're going to get much residents from the south. So potentially that it could have impacted those people just south in your neighborhood. But I don't know how, because again, you kind of have to get to like that 20 school children threshold and you know, I guess potentially like it could be there, and maybe another study down the road might be warranted, but I guess we just didn't see that much activity out there. And we were out there several times, not just the one day collecting data. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Nope. Go ahead, Carrie. What? Wait, there's someone behind you, Carrie. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Carrie Nelson and I live at 5406 Canterbury. And I have lived in my house for over 20 years. And while I can appreciate it was the school children that the accident occurred with, this is not limited to kids getting to school. And I feel like the study was conducted based on the school. I can tell you at 4:30 a.m. every morning, at least 3 residents on Canterbury are crossing that street alone. And I am not a 7-year-old, I'm not a 10-year-old, I'm a 48-year-old. And I have almost been hit multiple times trying to cross it at 4:30 in the morning. I mean, cars come racing around that curve. I have never once ever seen anybody between Westwood, Fairway, or Roland Park be pulled over. And I mean, it is, and then there's also, you've got a lot of traffic cutting through on Falmouth and on Canterbury, getting to Mission to get to the I-35. And it has increased significantly since the Cancer Center Westwood campus opened with traffic. I mean, it is, and then on Canterbury alone, with that island, I mean, it is the way that sign is, people cut down to, it's only supposed to be one way in and one way out on the north end. But the way that it's set up, I mean, I have had to jump into the yard multiple times to not get hit by cars that are turning in there rather than going around the island. And like I said, I mean, it is a horrible tragedy that this happened with the kids, but I mean, it is a miracle it has not happened to anybody else. Because I mean, it is just, there is no sidewalk and there is no way to get to the sidewalk for both Falmouth and Canterbury. And I hope that the city will reconsider or at least work with the residents to come up with a solution that it makes it safe for us to get to a site.
Thank you, Carrie. Yes.
Mayor Hepperly, council members.
Your name, please?
My name is Jan Fadley. I am one of
Address?
your neighbors in Roland Park. My address is 4807 Birch Street. And I am here tonight to address this issue because it has affected our community as well. I need to say that I do serve on the city council and I've worked there over a number of years to implement our complete streets policy, which is how to take a longer range look at your streets so that you do consider them for all users, not just vehicular traffic, but those people who are pedestrians, the elderly, the disabled, for the multitude of e-mobility things that are popping up now. That's a consideration as well. So having a complete streets policy has really helped us in Roland Park. When we do a street reconstruction, that's one of the things we do. I first want to say thank you so much because I think we've collaborated effectively before. We worked together on the sidewalks on Buena Vista, south of 53rd down to Einstein's. And that was, I believe, a very successful project. It feels much safer there now. And I want to thank you for that. I think it's possible to do that. It's the first time I've heard the idea of extending the school zone. I am pretty certain that our council would be favorable to that. I was told that I could tell you that we are supportive of a crosswalk at that location, have no problems helping with whatever costs might be related, but we can't install a crosswalk to nowhere. It has to have a safe landing place. And so our hands are tied from the standpoint of the site of Roland Park. Now, as far as extending the school zone, we might be able to do that as well and work with you on that. I don't think that that would be an issue. I just would encourage council to listen to your residents and consider any improvements that would increase safety on 53rd Street, making it safe for all users. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. Next. Thank you. Yes. Hi,
Good
Cassandra.
evening. Thank you. Hi. My name's Cassandra Newell, and I live at 5340 Canterbury Road. I'm speaking to you tonight, sorry, as a concerned Fairway resident, a mother, a neighbor, a pediatric nurse practitioner, and an advocate for children's health and safety. I've lived on Canterbury Road for 10 years. As my husband already said, we have our 3 children, we have 2 dogs. When I received the phone call on January 29th, 2025, when my kids were hit by a car trying to cross the north to the south side, it was the worst day of my life. I found my son and daughter hurt, crying in the middle of the street. They were so brave. They recovered physically, and they worked through the mental trauma of being hit by a car. We felt overwhelmed support and love from our neighbors, from our school, from our church community who care and love for our family. Our children's lives matter, and the lives of our neighbors matter. As city council members, your words and your actions shape our community's future. And we have been paying very close attention, both of what you say and what you do, ever since that occurred. And we know that you can help us make West 53rd Street and Canterbury Road safer for all pedestrians. After attending the Fairway Administration and Finance Committee meeting nearly 2 weeks ago, it was really difficult and it was very disheartening to listen to the words that you had spoken. And especially to hear about the accident again. And to hear you say that it's too much money. I don't feel like you can put a price tag on a resident or a child's life. It's invaluable. So the very next day, we created a petition. We asked our neighbors if they're in support of a sidewalk and a crosswalk for West 53rd and Canterbury, for a crosswalk and a sidewalk. We went door to door, knocking on doors. And our neighbors, the residents were amazing. They let us in on the Sunday previously when it was hailing and raining to talk to us and said, absolutely. The majority said, yes, we need a sidewalk there, not only for the pedestrians, but also for the drivers to watch out for the pedestrians who don't have a sidewalk to walk on, who are walking in the middle of the street or on the side of the street. So why are sidewalks and crosswalks important? To quote the United States Department of Transportation, sidewalks can reduce pedestrian crashes by 65 to 89%. When they're well designed, they enhance pedestrian safety, mobility, and they stress that it is crucial that you provide accessible walkways on both sides of the road, especially near school zones and busy pedestrian areas. The Kansas Department of Transportation has wonderful resources for what we can do to stress the importance for safe routes to school to help communities like ours for walking, to make it safe and benefit. We know that walking, physical activity is good for our health. It also helps reduce or helps improve traffic safety as well. For instance, Mayor, I often see you walking from our street on Canterbury on the street onto West 53rd Street on the south side because there's not a sidewalk to walk on. But there are benefits to walking. It helps with our reducing the risk of chronic conditions. It's obesity, diabetes, depression, and more. I'm running out of time, but I urge you this As a mother of two children who were hit by a car, a pediatric nurse practitioner cared about the well-being, the health, and the safety of all pedestrians and the residents of Fairway we care deeply about our neighbors to take action to make West 53rd Street safer and accessible and to support this project. We know you can find a way to fund it for the future and the good of our entire community, and we know you can do it. So find a way, Fairway, find a way to help us, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Is there anyone else?
Hello, my name is Connor Newell. I live at 5340 Canterbury Road in Fairway, Kansas. I'm 11 years old and I'm a fifth grader at St. Agnes Catholic School in Roland Park, Kansas. My little sister and I were hit by a car while trying to cross the street from the school. It was scary, I was hurt, and I was worried about my sister. My mom took me to Children's Mercy Hospital emergency room, and I was told that my left ankle was broken and that I had to wear a walking boot. I had scrapes and bruises on the back of my head, arms, and legs, and my whole body was sore for many days after the accident. It was scary to cross the road. I couldn't play soccer, basketball for many weeks because I was hurt. I asked my mom and dad almost every week if Melanie, our neighbor and mayor, is going to help us put a sidewalk and crosswalk. We still do not have a sidewalk or crosswalk since we were hit by a car over a year ago. I want to be able to walk or ride my bike on a sidewalk and use a crosswalk to cross to school, play with my friends who live across the street, walk to Bishop Meach High School to watch football games and basketball games, and to go in a hen house to get some of my favorite snacks with my brother and sister. Please put a sidewalk and crosswalk there so we can cross safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Anyone else? Yeah, Jean.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Annie and I'm 8 years old. I live at 5340 Canterbury Road in Fairway. My older brother Connor and I were hit by a car trying to cross the street from school. I was so scared and cried. I was worried about my brother. My mom took my brother and me to Children's Mercy ER. I had an x-ray on my left hand and got scrapes and bruises on my body. Every day I must walk across the street where the accident happened to get to school, to and from school. Because there is no sidewalk or crosswalk, I asked my mom and dad when Fairway will put in a sidewalk and crosswalk, and my parents say they are still working on it. I don't know why this is taking so long to fix. These are my friends. Grace lives in Roland Park, and my friends Penelope and Shelby and Amelia live in Westwood. I want to be able to walk to their houses, but I can't without crossing that busy road. I don't want to get hit again. Please put in a sidewalk and a crosswalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Okay, Jean.
I'm Gene Sands, probably a resident of Fairway, longer than anybody here, except perhaps you, Mr. Hafner. You and I look to be about the same age. Live at 5341 Canterbury and have for 51 years. I have seen the issues involving Canterbury and 53rd for many of those years, especially those years subsequent to the removal of the sidewalk. Now, I understand the regulatory framework involved in that, but it is a regulatory framework. I don't know if anybody has asked that that be waived in this situation. Just a few comments for our folks from Burns and Mac. One, we talked about the 34 mile per hour average speed limit. I wonder if there is an average for the school reduction speed limit times. That was not mentioned, and that's what I'm most concerned about. If we're doing 34 miles per hour in a 20, that is too dangerous. We need to have that broken out so that we know what those speeds are during the time that reduced speed limit is in effect. As far as I know, that information, Chief, do we have that?
I'm not sure I'm following what.
We have
you're
20
asking.
mile per hour school zone limits during the peak times, morning and afternoon. Do we have information showing what the average speed is there during those peak times?
Sir, the school zone is in Roland Park.
All right.
And Westwood on the east side.
And I appreciate that. That's good clarification. I hate that. I think that is an important thing to take into account here, though. You can't have people averaging 34 miles an hour in an area that should be 20, whether it's Westwood, Roland Park, or Fairway. Secondly, I would like to have the folks from Burns and Mac address whether they have considered the census of the children who are living in that area. They've got a picture of 3 kids on one day. Cassandra, how many school-age kids are we having in the next 5 years? You, I think, got some information on that.
There are 12 kids on our street. How did that go to St.
12 kids on Canterbury. I'm sure that there is a like number. I know at least 2 pregnant ladies on Chadwick. Those numbers aren't being taken into account. You can't take a static number, 3 kids on one day, for crying out loud. That simply does not work. Now, finally, and I'll quit here. One of the paramount obligations of any city is the safety of its residents. That is, as I said, paramount. And I don't know that there is anybody in this room tonight, council, mayor, chief, who can say that that intersection is safe. It needs to be upgraded. It needs to be upgraded now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. So you're right, it was a snapshot of 1 week that we studied, and you know, one of the things the study talked about was, you know, potentially down the road, if, you know, especially if there is a crosswalk that's built here, another study maybe warranted just to explore, make sure that, see if it does increase demand. You know, again, potentially that day where we studied, it was 3 people, and there could be more on a typical day. But again, we wanted to get some data out there and turn around some study, get some fair results pretty quick. So, you know, a little bit constrained, you know, with the time frame. But down the road, it may make sense to study that further, to see if there are more school children using it. Because again, there's turnover in neighborhoods, and that could generate more students down the road where it, you know, potentially warrants something different. So, you know, things change, and that's part of every community, and maybe something we're studying someday down the road.
Thank you, Phil. Yes.
My name is Katie Garcia. I live at 5203 Pawnee Drive in Roland Park. I think what's been super interesting about tonight is we've heard the traffic study from Burns and Mac. We heard Cassandra and Brandon and Jan and others talk about the data on why sidewalks are safe. When we reduce the size of streets, it gets safer. When we have sidewalks, it's safer. We have data on both sides saying it's not warranted, right? But we have this other data that says, but it would make us safer. So I'm urging you guys, when you look at the data, let's not just look at what the engineering team is. Let's think about what is the right thing to do for our small Northeast Johnson County community. That's the cool thing about Northeast Johnson County is we are a small community and we can be creative and we can stick together. So I just encourage you guys to please help us do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes? Can't see you behind the podium.
Hi, my name is Beth Borders. I live at 2902 West 50th Terrace in Westwood. I wanted to reiterate a point about the church being part of the school and that at school drop-off, when we have designated areas to take the kids and pick up our kids, the littlest kids are taken to the church for pickup time. So our pre-K kids and our kindergartners are walked across and wait at the church for their parents to pick them up. And if you ever stand out there with these little babies and watch people fly around that corner, you might reconsider extending that school zone to include the church because these little kids are standing out there waiting to be picked up. And if you have children 3, 4, 5 years old, corralling them together is a feat in itself for these teachers. Secondly, I am a local realtor who sells lots of homes in Westwood, Roland Park, Fairway. And something to also consider is people who move to Kansas City from other places constantly want a place that they can walk to. And the Fairway shops are a huge plus. Even living in Westwood, being able to walk down Belinda or down Mission, which are my 2 neighboring streets, to the Fairway shops is awesome. My 3rd grade daughter, Penelope, walked with another 3rd grader the other day because I knew it was safe because they could walk on a sidewalk. So it would also increase the property value of the homes in the area because they could walk safely to the amazing shops that Fairway has to offer. So another little nugget to consider, that it is a huge plus to have walkability in your residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Yes.
I'm Patrick Landazuri. I live at 5400 Canterbury. The beginning actually struck of this time really struck me when the chief described the accident in pretty great detail. And I realized that I'm someone that drives on that street, just like, you know, all the adults here. And I too have stopped for people coming across. And so I think we've described the problem and then we heard a number of solutions and then said none of those solutions would work. And so it concerns me that we all recognize that there's a problem, but we've dismissed every possible solution. And I don't know necessarily which one is the correct one, but I do know that something has to happen because we can't keep doing the same thing, expecting something not to happen again. As Carrie said, she walks across and she's been almost hit. I walk across, I've almost been hit. I'm a 40 to 43-year-old adult. And so, you know, I feel like I'm pretty good at crossing streets. I grew up on a much, much busier street than this and certainly learned appropriate things. But I think expecting children to do everything perfectly is not a real expectation. So we do need some kind of solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes?
Hi, my name is Rachel Gray. I don't have anything prepared for you, but I just moved to Fairway last Saturday, actually. We live on 5322 Canterbury Road, and I'm also a teacher at St. Agnes School. And so I might have a kind of a different perspective. And I know it's not all about St. Agnes School, but there are so many more kids that cross that road than just the 3 that were pulled up on that study. I'm also one of the teachers that does the duty of dismissal, and we do the crosswalk sign. We have certain teachers designated to walk the kids, but it's not enough. We don't have enough. We could use the help from the city to have sidewalks, to have a safer way for these kids. And it's not just the kids that live on that south side of 53rd. I mean, those kids are also walking to friends' house. And that's the beautiful thing of being in the Bishop Miege and the St. Agnes community is that there's so many families in this neighborhood. There's so many kids walking in this neighborhood because it is safe, but we need to make it safer for them to be in the neighborhood. So Dismissal, it's scary. I mean, there are cars zooming around that corner every single day. I mean, we have been begging for police presence and they're doing the best they can, and I know that. But dismissal, I see it every single day. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that as a teacher, as a mother. My 2 children live on Canterbury Road and walk to school now every day at St. Agnes. And it is scary. It's a very busy corner. And then also the other thing I wanted to mention was just and this is not really having to do with the school, but with the restaurant that might be coming in the old Houlihan spot, I do see that might also bring some traffic in with some more people walking. But it's just, there's everyone out and about walking in that area. So what can we do to make it safer? So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Sherry Skillman, moving in at 2614 West 51st Terrace in Westwood in a few short weeks. Mother of St. Agnes children, but I want to bring an engineering perspective to this. I'm a licensed structural engineer. I don't do traffic, but in my experience, codes are a minimum. I don't know about the standards of MUTCD, but they are always a minimum and they can be exceeded, especially where life safety is concerned. So I would encourage you to look at the life safety perspective versus just meeting a minimum threshold. That's not always the end all be all. So that's all I had. Just wanted to provide a different perspective. Thanks.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes.
My name is Jill Schramp. I actually live in Prairie Village, 4411 West 77th Terrace. I have 3 kids that go to St. Agnes, 2 actually, one at Bishop Miege. My husband's at Bishop Miege. We've been a part of that community there for the last 10 years. In the course of a single day, we drive from Prairie Village to that area probably 2 to 3 times for school, church practices, activities. My thought on this, in addition to the fact that city council members, mayors are elected by the residents to speak for them, to look out for their best interest, I think that's a huge level of responsibility that you all have. And I appreciate all of the time that you give to your positions and to your city. I have no doubt that you're passionate about it. That's why you're here. That's why you give a lot of the time and attention you do to these things. I know it's outside the realm of probably what your daily life would be or what your normal responsibilities are. But it's, again, you're elected by these residents to protect them, to make decisions that are sound in the health and safety of all the residents there. I can't help but think of Leawood, and I know that's kind of apples to oranges and that they're 4 times the size of Fairway. I have no doubt that the resources they have financially are far greater than what Fairway does, but how can we not learn from other cities in our community? They paid the ultimate cost with that 10-year-old boy that was killed. And I've read up on a lot of the things that they have done, and that jumped to the top of their priority list in terms of what do we do to prevent this from happening again. I just feel like they probably have so many resources. I know they've developed a committee, a permanent committee on their council to look at just safety in general. I mean, and I can't help but think that we could learn from them, and they probably have feedback or perspectives that, I mean, you all could even use. I hate to think that we wait till it happens here to learn from that. Incidentally, I read that they are doing a study of the width of their sidewalks, and they are widening the sidewalks. And then I think in this situation, how we don't even have a sidewalk to begin with. So anyway, as a parent and a community member here at the Bishop Miege St. Agnes, we have friends and neighbors all over Westwood and Roland Park, Fairway. I do think it's something that needs to be addressed, and I've been somewhat hopeful in hearing about some ideas, at least, that something does need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Anyone else? I don't know everyone in the audience. Is there anyone that lives along 53rd Street on the south side? Do you care to speak? I don't want to put you on the spot. No, please.
Hi, Laura Frakel.
Jim Frankel.
We're at 5300 Falmouth Road, and we back up to the Mission, and we are on the south side. We don't really want a sidewalk there, but if it makes it safer, we're all for it. I know there are so many people that walk up and down 53rd. I mean, it's a lot, day and night, early mornings, late at night. Sorry. I sit on my side porch, which is, all seasons. And I mean, it's just constant. I don't know where they come up with three kids. It's just constant. And I think at least what they could do is put it at 20 miles per hour. I think that would make a big difference. And as far as him saying that, people aren't going to like that and they're going to drive 34 anyway. Well, you have to obey the laws. I mean, if you're on the highway and you want to go 90, you're not supposed to. That's a law. So I don't understand why they can't at least lower it to 20. Also, it'd make me feel safer out in the yard when they come whizzing down. I just don't understand that reasoning, why it couldn't be 20. And then also, if people are speeding, there you go, you're going to make some money. And you get enough tickets and you're not going to speed through that area. Mission, Johnson Drive has, not to speed up Johnson Drive. Everybody knows that. You're going to get a ticket. So people don't speed.
And did it used to be 20 years ago? I used to 40 years ago.
And also, St. Agnes also rents their parking lot out to KU people who are working there. And they whiz out of there so fast. So they need to do something. Something needs to be done. And I don't want a sidewalk, but I will take a sidewalk if it makes everybody safer.
I believe the speed limit was lower. I think it was 25 and a part of a school zone, but that study that was done in 2004 by GBA, several modifications were made to that corridor from that study, and that was one of them.
I mean, forget studies, just it's common sense. I mean, I don't think you need a study for everything. I mean, I can stand here and tell you, make it 20 miles an hour and see if that doesn't help. You're not spending any money on that. And if that doesn't improve things, then do something else. I mean, I don't know why it's just too many studies. Common sense. Just make it 20 and see if that doesn't help. And if people don't like it, don't drive through there, go a different way. Or leave in enough time that you can drive 20 miles an hour. There's people everywhere, all ages. So that's all. It just gets irritating, all these studies, it's common sense. I mean, go ahead.
Thank you both. Jim?
Jim Poplinger, 5300 Aberdeen in Fairway. I mean, I agree with all these folks that there's really need for a sidewalk there. That area is cut off from any safe way to get to the church, to get to the shops, unless you go down to Shawnee Mission Parkway and come back around. It's just difficult. But what I really wanted to talk about was the situation before 2004, which was very bad because we had three cities that were doing three different things. And Westwood had a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit going down Mission Road to the north. If you're coming from the south, Roland Park had a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And to make it even worse, with the school signage, it made it look like it was a school zone. So it was not uncommon for a person to come through there at 30 miles an hour going south, thinking that that was okay, but it really wasn't. It was very deceptive. And I think that's something we'd have to be real careful of, taking it down to a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, is to make sure that it's not confusing. And also, I was very glad to hear somebody from Roland Park City Council here expressing a desire to cooperate, because we certainly don't want to go back to a situation where one side of the street has one rule and the other side of the street has a different rule.
Thank you, Jim. Whoops. Anyone else? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I
Chief?
just wanted to add an additional comment on that, just so there's clarity. Fairway owns the south side of 53rd Street. Roland Park by the school and southbound owns all of that property all the way to the Indian Mission. So half of the roadway is Roland Park, and then the south side is Fairway. Right when you get to 53rd, and then as you're on Mission Road east, traveling northbound, is Westwood. So that's what Mr. Poplinger was talking about. There's multiple cities involved all around that area. So we would just have to work together to figure that out if we wanted to adjust the speed limits. But in the past, it has been somewhat confusing.
Thank you, Chief. All right, I'm going to close public comment on item A under new business. Council, is there any further discussion? Yes, Kellyanne?
Kellyanne Busick, Ward 1. Thank you all for coming tonight. Really, really appreciate you coming here and telling us how you feel. It's very important. We do serve you. It's such a tough situation. And let me just say, I'm not going to speak extemporaneously because I can't. I'm not really good at it, so I'm reading, but I will try to be as engaging as possible. Last Tuesday evening, Lee and I had a Ward 1 meeting. The greatest concern that was spoken about is the West 53rd Mission Road crosswalk sidewalk issue. During the meeting, it was passionately expressed that we all try to work together to create some solutions, some type of safety initiatives that will aid in safely navigating the non-crosswalk, non-sidewalk street areas of this portion of West 53rd Mission Road concurrence. I also spoke with some residents and reassured them that I would work on this issue in earnest. So right now, the findings of Burns and McDonald study that a sidewalk and additional crosswalk on Mission Road is not recommended. Okay, so I therefore propose the following intermediate steps that we could take to help mitigate the risk factors. Perhaps with the coordination and cooperation of Roland Park and Westwood, a pedestrian safety corridor along the 0.2 of a mile section of Mission Road, the S-turn, from the intersection of Mission Road and West 53rd Street to where it turns north again between Roland Park and Westwood. Moreover, this corridor is composed of a unique mix of organizations and neighborhoods. We have the State Historic Site, Shawnee Indian Mission, which draws not only local visitors, but visitors from all over the country. And hopefully this summer, during the FIFA World Cup, we will have visitors coming to the mission from all over the world. We also have St. Agnes Catholic Church, St. Agnes Catholic School that has a varied age within their student population, ranging from pre-K to 8th grade. Bishop Miege High School that not only has regular school hours, but also engages in all sorts of events that are held during the week, at night, and on weekends. More importantly, our thickly settled Fairway neighborhoods are in this area. These neighborhoods consist of young families, elderly citizens, and families who walk their dogs throughout this corridor. The corridor might have the following cost-effective safety enhancements feature that I'm going to address. A reduced speed limit from 30 miles an hour to 25, but preferably to 20 miles an hour. Given that the streets of Chadwick, Canterbury, and Falmouth all have 20-mile-per-hour speed limits between Shawnee Mission Parkway and Mission Road. Additionally, Reinhardt Road, like I addressed, in Rowan Park, in and around Bishop Miege High School, is all 25 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour speed limit. West 53rd from Mission Road to Buena Vista, and again from Chadwick to the Fairway Shops, has a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. This proposal would make the speed limit more consistent, consistent with the surrounding streets and neighborhoods. According to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, a speed of 30 miles an hour, it takes 106 feet of total stopping distance. This includes 66 feet of perception and reaction distance and 40 feet of braking distance. By comparison, a speed of 20 miles an hour, it only takes 62 feet of stopping distance, from which includes 44 feet of perception and reaction distance and just 18 feet of braking distance. The difference between 20 miles an hour and 30 miles an hour can mean the difference in a collision between causing an injury or fatality. We could also paint slow in the road, big white letters. We could also use tall traffic cones like they use in Westwood in existing crosswalks on Mission Road right there. Let's say state law pedestrian crossing. Also, adding a bike lane on the south side of Mission Road. The street is in section measures about 28 feet wide. Bike lanes are typically 6 feet wide, but can be less. This gives 22 feet of road travel. This would allow residents of Canterbury and Falmouth, in particular, a margin of safety while walking to one of the designated crosswalks. By comparison, Mission Road between Roland Park and Westwood is about 32 feet wide with 2 dedicated bike lanes in each direction, each having 6 feet in width. People talked about speed bumps too, or humps in this corridor, similar to what we have on Belinda Road and Neosho, where the speed limit is also reduced to 20 miles an hour. A prominent yellow sign at the entrance to this 0.2 of a mile stretch of road designated this a pedestrian safety corridor with enhanced enforcement 20 miles an hour and alternating flashing lights on the sign. We could also add a retired Fairway police cruiser as a semi-permanent deterrent parked in front of the West Building in the bus turnout various times during the day. We can also consider adding transverse speed reduction markings such as those that are used on Rockwell Lane in Kansas City, Missouri. You were discussing that about the small, yes, okay. We can use those also. But furthermore, I'm sure that my fellow council members, the mayor, our police department, our Fairway administration and staff want our neighbors to have not only a safe place to live, but a safe approach to walking throughout this unique area of Fairway. We want to be sure that no other person falls victim to a pedestrian accident like the Newell children suffered on West 53rd and Mission Road concurrence in Fairway on January 29th, 2025. Thank you.
Jim?
Quickie. As relates to the traffic flow also, I just learned today that Joe's bought out the taco place. That's going to be their complete carry out. So I don't know if they're anticipating a lot more business, so that might increase also the traffic flow just to get there. At least that's my route. So anyways.
Anyone else on the council? Yeah, Lee?
So like Kellyanne, I would like to thank everybody for being here tonight and for speaking, and particularly our young residents. It's not easy to get up and address the city council. You did it with style, and we heard you, and we appreciate it. I'd also like to thank you who were at the resident meeting that Kellyanne and I held last Tuesday. Many of you here tonight were also at that meeting, and our mayor was also at the meeting. And Kellyanne and I hold those meetings. We're not required to hold those meetings, and I'm not sure that it happens everywhere, but we like to have them for this reason. We like to hear what your priorities are, what's on your mind, what questions you have, what we're doing and not doing. And it was clear because we spent over half that meeting talking about this issue. And my thought is that because the sidewalk project and the crosswalk project were not included in the CARS piece, and I think the council actually made the right decision on that. But having said that, that does not mean that's the end of the story. Kellyanne and I have, we listened, we understand, and now it's our job to advocate on your behalf. That I look at as our job. We represent Ward 1, and your priorities must be our priorities. And so we've already had a couple of meetings on this topic since last Tuesday. You can see Kellyanne has done a lot of homework. And my promise to you is I don't know what the right solution is, but I do think that there should be a solution, or at least some measure, whether it's an intermediate measure, a long-term measure, but some measure or measures to help us get at what is clearly perceived as a safety issue. So we will continue to work with you, and together I ask you, just give us a chance, work with us. We're happy to meet anytime and talk about this issue. We're open to ideas, and thank you again for being here. And don't let the fact that it's not in the CARS program give you the impression that that's the end of this initiative. Thank you.
Anyone else on council? Yes, Jerry.
Jerry Williams, Ward 2, and like the other council members, I do appreciate the big turnout tonight, and we are listening. I want everyone to understand that council had several discussions in our committee meeting about this issue, and there was passion on all sides around this. And please understand that a vote surrounding the CARS project does not put a price on the life of a child. That's not what we were voting on. We have a dedication as a council team to spend your money wisely, and we do that, but never believe that we're putting a price on a child. And it concerns me that I heard that a couple times. We volunteer for this job because we love the city and we love the work that we have to do. And we do it with the utmost respect for our residents. And that's what I think we did in the CARS discussion. Now, voting for this CARS project, like Kellyanne said, does not mean that's the end or that we don't care. But we are trying to do the best that we can for this city because we love our city. So I wanted to put that out there because all of our meetings are very serious and we take our work very seriously. And we think about you guys and everything that we do, and especially the kids. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion concerning resolution number 2026A?
Mayor, I vote we approve, consider resolution 2026A, a resolution approving CARS 5-year plan 2027 to 2031.
Been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2026A. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, thank you, Joe. Opposed, no. Passes unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is the governing body comment. During this time, members of the governing body will be given the opportunity to speak about matters related to the city. No formal action will be taken during this time. Council, any comments tonight? Or we all commented out? All right, we'll close governing body comment. Is there any public comment for items not listed on the agenda? Nathan, anyone online? Okay, we'll close public comment in that regard. And next on the agenda, we do have an executive session, attorney-client privilege. I'll ask for a motion. Please know that there will be no additional business conducted after this executive session. We will come back to council chambers and immediately adjourn. Tanya, do you have a motion for me?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city council recess into executive session to obtain legal advice related to a development agreement for a property at 2820 West 53rd Street in Fairway, Kansas pursuant to the attorney-client consultation exception, KSA 75-4319B2. The executive session will include city's attorneys, Jim Mosselman and Todd LaSala, and our city administrator, Nathan Nogelmeyer. There will be no binding action taken during the executive session, and the open meeting will resume in the city council chamber in 45 minutes at 9:15 with time for travel.
9:15. Is there a second? Second. All right. All those in favor? Opposed, no. All right, we'll see you back here later. Kellyanne, you guys, before you go up, Kellyanne, before you go up,